Coming up on Vegas Nation Blitz, another blown lead.
We've shown spurts of being a good football team, but showing spurts of being a good football team gives you 2 wins.
Ain't no way we should be losing games, at the rate that we are, let alone the way that we are.
We'll break down what continues to go wrong for the Raiders right now on Vegas Nation Blitz.
Powered by the Las Vegas Review-Journal, this is Vegas Nation Blitz. Presented by D&R House of Diamonds, making luxury affordable. Located in the One Summerlin building in downtown Summerlin.
Welcome into Vegas Nation Blitz. I'm your host, Cassie Soto. For the third time this season, the Raiders blew a 17-point lead. To put into perspective on just how bad that is, in Raiders franchise history, from 1960 to 2021, the Raiders have blown 5 leads of 17 or more points. Again, that's 5 blown leads in over 60 years. This year's Raiders have blown 3 such leads in 9 weeks, and we're just now getting to the halfway point of the season. There is so much to break down here, so let's get to it with our top stories brought to you by Capriotti's. Make your game day extraordinary with Capriotti's. Order now.
The coaches have to do they got to make adjustments the same way that the players do, and that's just the way that the game goes. So, we all got to take a look at it, and that's the good part about this team is that we have coaches that are open and receptive to the captains and guys that, have experience. And, I can come to Josh during the game and say, let's make this, I want to run slant here. And that happened today, and I got the ball in the, 2-3 plays later. So we have that type of communication, and that's just the way that it is. Like, we don't call the plays as players, and they don't go make the plays. So they can't, it's just the same thing. They're going to say we got to execute, we got to, make that play over the middle and things like that. And he's absolutely right. And I would think that he would say that I'm absolutely right about certain things, based off of the way the questions you ask and the way I comment on it. So at the end of the day, if I'm rolling and I'm in certain situations like that, or if the pass game is something it's something that's helping us, move the ball and win games, then, obviously that's the idea. You want to stick with what's working.
Raiders beat writer Vinny Bonsignore here with us now. Vinny, that was, of course, Raiders wide receiver Davante Adams following the team's 27-20 loss to the Jaguars on Sunday. Adams was cooking in the first half. Vinny, 9 passes for 146 yards and 2 TDs, and then was basically non-existent in the second half. Adams clearly frustrated about that. Do you think that the Jags all of a sudden figured out how to cover Davante Adams, or was this a Josh McDaniels and a team call to shut him down?
Well, I mean, he still did get 8 more targets after that great first half. So, and I think he got 9 in the first half. So it wasn't like they were going away from him too much. I get his point, and there was definitely some frustration over the loss, and especially I think, kind of down the stretch when he felt he should have been targeted more when they got the ball back, in the fourth quarter, that type of thing. From Josh McDaniels' perspective, he didn't feel like what they were doing in the first half was going to be sustainable. Number one, the offensive line, they were kind of doing what they were doing in spite of an offensive line that wasn't protecting Derek Carr very well. And then when it got in the second half, I think that started to really be exploited a little bit more. Or felt a little bit more, even though Davante got the 8 targets, a lot of them were under pressure, where Derek's got to throw it or get rid of it a little bit quicker. And so while the targets were there, the way they were, getting in the ball changed. So Josh felt like, okay, it's time to run the ball because we're going to get the quarterback hurt or bad things are going to happen because this isn't sustainable. Just chucking it, dropping back and chucking it. The problem is they couldn't run the ball either because, again, the offensive line just had a bad day, one of many that they've had this year. So I understand Davante's frustration. I also get what Josh McDaniels was talking about, trying to establish that run in order to be more of a multi-dimensional team in that game. But when they decided to go the run, it wasn't there. And then when they decided, again, to target Davante Adams, they weren't completing them. And for me, a lot of that goes to the offensive line and how poorly they played.
We knew that some changes had to be coming, and on Tuesday, the Raiders announced that they were parting ways. They were releasing former first-round pick Jonathan Abram. And when you think about this, Vinny, obviously his name had popped up, I believe, during the trade deadline, but I believe, as you tweeted out, there really were no good enough offers there for Abram. do you think that this is some sort of maybe a scapegoat situation, that they're putting this on Jonathan Abram?
No.
Because while he obviously wasn't producing, he wasn't the main cause that this defense hasn't been clicking.
No, I don't think they're scapegoating Jonathan at all. He just wasn't a fit in this scheme, wasn't playing up to the level that they needed him to play at. And so they're going to give some younger players. Isaiah Palamau, the young safety from USC, is next in line to be called up from the practice squad and potentially get those snaps and see what they have in him. Look, I know that this probably frustrates a lot of Raider fans, but from this point on, yeah, they're going to try to win as many football games as possible. Anything can happen. So in the meantime, what they also have to be doing, and this is Dave Ziegler's job and Josh McDaniels and Patrick Brown, the defensive coordinator, is figuring out who's going to still be on this train beyond this season. There's a lot of evaluation that's going on right now. There's a lot of evaluation that's been going on, throughout this season. And I know that Raider fans don't want to hear about a rebuild. It doesn't necessarily have to be a rebuild, but they definitely have to retool around their core players like Derek Carr, like Davante Adams, and Hunter Renfrow, and Darren Waller, and Max Crosby, because they're not getting what they need to get from the supporting cast. So I think what Dave Ziegler and Josh McDaniels are feeling out, and this is not an excuse, this is kind of the reality of the situation, is there's more work, a lot more work that needs to be done in this roster. That doesn't mean you're going to be selling off guys like Waller or Davante Adams or Derek Carr. They feel like there's a way to rebuild or retool around them. But they're making some hard decisions right now on who's going to be part of that and who's not going to be a part of that. And I think by this time next year, you're probably going to see a lot of changes, especially defensively and along that offensive line.
Yeah, Vinny, obviously some projections down the road, as you say, next year. But as for this year, as for the 9 games left in this season, you mentioned the Raiders fans still out there. What sort of hope can they hang their hats on here? 9 games left. The Raiders are 2-6 with the men they do have on this roster. Who do you think, who has to step up at this point? Now, we've heard the saying there's a lot of football left to be played. Well, they've already played a lot of football, and we see where they're at. Who or what has to happen this point moving forward?
And by the way, as Foster Moreau told me after the game on Sunday, time's up. Time's not just running out. Time's up. They got to start winning some games. And I think for a lot of people's spirit, they got to start winning some games, and at least being not necessarily rewarded for the hard work, but for that hard work and the path that they're on, to be, to build some good feelings that this is working, that this is headed in the right direction. And for the entire group, the players, the coaches, everybody that's involved in it, they need some positive results for the work that they're putting in. Otherwise, people start wondering, are we putting in the right work? Is this the right direction? And all that type of stuff. And that's the last thing you need in an organization.
Around the League, brought to you by South Point Sportsbook. Download the app at southpointsports.com. It's Heidi Fang here and Adam Hill, our NFL and Raiders writer, and we're going to break down a couple of key matchups here around the league in Week 10 of the NFL season. Adam, right now the Chargers 5-3 facing the 49ers at Levi Stadium, who are 4-4, looking to break through that 500 mark. This is a very intriguing matchup because the Chargers aren't too far out of first place in the AFC West. Adam, how do you see this one breaking down?
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting matchup for a couple of reasons. First of all, it's Christian McCaffrey against Austin Eckler, two of the top dual threat running backs in the entire league. So I know fantasy managers are going to be very excited about this matchup. And also just it's fun to watch because you see both these teams use those guys in such creative ways. So I'm interested from that aspect. It's also two very different teams, right? The Chargers are 5-3, but it feels like they've had a disappointing season. They've had all the injuries. They've had a couple of close losses. It doesn't feel like they're 5-3, but they are. They're right in the mix, and they're finding a way to kind of stay afloat as they wait to try to get a little bit healthy if that happens at some point, because it seems like some of these guys are never coming back. And then it feels like the 49ers have been dominant all season. Like they seem like a Super Bowl contender. Everybody feels like they're right in the mix. We look at the record and it's very middle of the road. So two teams that feel very different coming into this game, but I think two really good teams that could both be in the postseason. So I think this is a really exciting matchup.
Here's another exciting one, Adam. Right now, the Philadelphia Eagles remain undefeated heading into Week 10 of the NFL season, facing the Commanders. Eagles at home. What do you make of this? Will the Eagles remain undefeated?
I think they will. And the Eagles are weird because I did pick them to win the NFC. I thought they'd be in the Super Bowl. But at the same time, they just haven't played anybody. So they've been exceeding expectations. I don't think anybody had them being undefeated right now. But what have they really done except for beat teams are supposed to? Their toughest matchup was Dallas, but that was without Dak Prescott. So we don't really know a whole lot about this Eagles team except that they're good. We just don't know how good. I don't know if this is going to tell us either because the Commanders aren't very good, but the Eagles just keep finding a way to get the job done, which is what you're supposed to do when you're a favorite team every single week. Jalen Hurts, clearly an MVP candidate, right up there with Tua. I know a lot of people have Josh Allen as the favorite right now. To me, it's Tua or Jalen Hurts. Those are the two guys right now that are playing at the top of their game. So the Eagles just keep winning, keep finding ways to win. We don't know when they're going to really be challenged, but I don't know that it's going to be this week.
Sam Gordon here on behalf of Vegas Nation, checking in with the Week 10 injury brief as the Raiders prepare to host the Indianapolis Colts. As the Raiders return to practice on Wednesday, Hunter Renfrow limited with hamstring and ribs. Darren Waller also still limited with that hamstring. Josh McDaniels said there's no real timetable for his return, but they are working to get him back on the field as quickly as possible. Notable on the defensive side of the ball, linebacker Denzel Perryman was a non-participant with a hip and rib injury. Blake Martinez, unavailable, non-injury related personal, was excused from practice. And then rounding everything out, Derek Carr, full practice despite the back designation. Wide receiver Keelan Cole limited with a knee, and linebacker Darian Butler limited with a hip. On Indianapolis' side, running back, superstar running back at that, Jonathan Taylor, back at practice. He was limited with that ankle, but he is back. Potential he plays on Sunday against the Raiders. Be sure to follow VegasNation.com, Vegas Nation on Twitter for the latest injury news and updates. I'm Sam Gordon. That's the Week 10 injury brief.
D&R House of Diamonds is Las Vegas's elite private office jeweler, the perfect bridge between internet pricing and a traditional brick-and-mortar jewelry store. We specialize in loose diamonds, natural and lab-grown, engagement rings, fashion jewelry, custom design, and jewelry repairs. We operate by appointment in our beautiful offices in the One Summerlin building, downtown Summerlin. Our great relationships with the world's largest diamond wholesalers and our low overhead saves you hundreds, if not thousands, on your purchase.
With Capriotti's, game day is always extraordinary. Fuel your passion with our award-winning cheesesteaks, in-house oven-roasted turkey, and classic subs. Or create a fan frenzy with our catering trays that are perfect for any crew. At Capriotti's, we deliver extraordinary to you.
Cassie Soto back with you, and I am joined by Las Vegas Review-Journal sports columnist Ed Graney. Ed, if the road ahead looks anything like the journey this team has been on previously, it is going to be a rocky one coming up. The Raiders are 2-6 with 9 games remaining, and I just need to know here, Ed, give me 2 or 3 bullet points from your vantage point. What changes, immediate changes, do the Raiders need to make sure this season doesn't go to waste?
Well, first of all, they have to be a lot more consistent on both sides of the ball, right? I mean, especially defensively. They have not been good defensively. And I say that after them being shut out in New Orleans 2 weeks ago. So offensively, they need to be more consistent as well. I also think Josh McDaniels needs to coach better. His staff needs to coach better. They need to call plays better. I think sometimes they get caught up in their own selves and they overthink the room and they go to something, overthinking it like, oh no, here we go again. We're going to lose another lead. And they go away from what, has been working or probably works in the situation. And also those guys with C's on their jerseys, you and I have talked about this before, they better start leading. Those captains need to lead in the locker room, on the field. They need to get in guys' faces, those they can. You have to treat everyone a little differently based on personality, but those captains really need to lead. So it starts with consistency in practice every day. It starts with consistency in the locker room, the message from the coaches, and then you have to carry that into a game for all 60 minutes. They haven't been able to do that. They play 30 minutes well, 30 minutes not well. You can't do that in the NFL and expect to win. So it's about consistency, it's about leadership, it's about adjusting, and it's about them trying to find what works best for them for an entire game.
Well, if Raiders fans think that this organization is a train wreck, Ed, all they need to do for a little bit of hope is look over at the Indianapolis Colts, who will be coming into Allegiant Stadium this Sunday. They just fired their head coach and will be led by an interim head coach in Super Bowl winning center, former player for the Colts, Jeff Saturday, who has no experience coaching in the NFL or even at the college level at that. The Raiders cannot lose this game, Ed. I mean, they can, but they cannot.
They certainly can, but they better not. Look, Jim Irsay is an owner that does, some things that is unexplainable. This is another one of those things from Jim Irsay where, he hired Saturday as his coach, brings him in, and not only brings him in, but says, I hope he's the coach for the long-term future. This was a team that barely had a guy who's ever called plays at the NFL level. Now they finally found someone on the staff who's done that. That'll be interesting to see. They have this young quarterback in Sam Ehlinger. Look, this is a game for many, many reasons, starting with themselves, not only starting with, with Coach Saturday and the Colts side. The Raiders need to win this for themselves. They don't need to be worried about the Colts or who their coach is. The Raiders need a win to get to 3-6 and to, get some good feelings back in the locker room. But yeah, you're right, Cassie. What's happened in Indianapolis the last few days is completely, people would say either ridiculous or shocking or surprising, whatever adjective you want to use. That's kind of what came out of Indianapolis. But when it comes to the Las Vegas Raiders, they better focus on themselves and get a win this week, because this would not be a good one to lose.
We appreciate you tuning in to another episode of Vegas Nation Blitz. For all of your Raiders news throughout the week, you can head on over to vegasnation.com, and please be sure to check out Vegas Nation Game Day on Saturday morning. The Raiders are finally back at home and will be hosting the Indianapolis Colts. For our entire Vegas Nation crew, I'm Cassie Soto. We'll see you soon.
Powered by the Las Vegas Review-Journal, this is Vegas Nation Blitz. Presented by D&R House of Diamonds, making luxury affordable. Located in the One Summerlin building in downtown Summerlin.